Now for Scotland, plenty of breaks in the cloud, particularly towards the north, although some showers will affect parts of Shetland. And it's hazy sunshine, I think, for many parts of central and eastern England. Some cloud breaks coming along, a few glimmers of sunshine. The front in the south and west, though, is slow moving, so damp day to come for Northern Ireland, for much of Wales, the south and southwest. And then later in the day, the rain turns heavy across southern counties, with the risk of localised flooding and issues on the roads. But we're beginning at this stage to see some snow over higher parts of Wales, and overnight into the start of Thursday could be some disruption due to snow across parts of Wales and the Midlands, mostly over hills, but some patchy snow at lower levels. However, on Thursday, all of that clears through. A brighter day follows eventually before more rain spills in from the northwest later. Then it turns much milder heading into the weekend, highs of 14 Celsius.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The A720 at Sheriff Hall roundabout is partially blocked by a broken down vehicle. On the M4 westbound, expect heavy congestion from junction 24 at Coldra to junction 26 at Malpas. In Oldham, the A663 southbound is slow between the A669 and the M60. In Leicester, the A46 southbound is closed after a crash between the A6 and A5630. And on the trains, cross-country is disrupted at Doncaster and between Gloucester and Bristol Parkway, while East Midlands Railway has delays between London St Pancras International and Luton. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Make sure you don't miss the chance to grab an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. And that's not all. Courtesy of Riviera Travel, there's a terrific £10,000 holiday for two to be won. Choose from over 30 worldwide destinations like Thailand, South Africa, or even Sri Lanka. There's just 2 weeks left to enter. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. After the news, we go live to Peros Banos, one of the atolls that makes up the Chagos Islands, to see the Chagos Islanders returning with the aim of establishing a full-time base. How on earth did the UK government respond to this. Plus, we'll talk about the great victory yesterday. 29 local elections will now be going ahead. But how on earth can the minister that put forward an idea that clearly was declared illegal keep his job? I don't know. Plus, Stellantis have decided it's diesel cars from now on, and frankly, very, very few EVs. Is this finally an outbreak for common sense? All of that and much more, and crossing my fingers that the live link to the beach on the Chagos Islands work. But first, let's get the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nigel, thank you very much and good evening. The top stories. More than 50 years after being forced from their homes, a group of Chagos Islanders say they've begun a permanent return. 4 people landed on the remote archipelago defying a British exclusion zone and say hundreds more could follow. They're led by Misley Mandarin, who says many islanders want the chance to return before it's too late. The Chagosians were removed by British authorities in the late 1960s and 70s and resettled mainly in Mauritius. The group says they now plan to stay as the UK considers handing sovereignty of the islands to Mauritius. Councils are facing what organisers are calling a race against time to prepare for local elections after the government reversed its decision to delay dozens of votes. Elections will now go ahead in around 30 council areas on the 7th of May after ministers abandoned plans to postpone them following legal advice. The body representing election administrators says staff have lost months of planning time and now face an uphill struggle to get everything ready. The government says £63 million will be made available to help councils manage the changes, but critics say the last-minute U-turn has created confusion and pressure on local authorities. Nigel Farage has unveiled his new top team, a group he's calling a shadow cabinet. Richard Tice has been confirmed as deputy leader, with Mr Farage saying he would be deputy prime minister if reform wins power, and he'll also take on the business, trade and energy brief. Former Tory Minister Robert Jenrick becomes the party's economic spokesperson, blaming what he calls decades of mismanagement for Britain's economic problems. Reform also announced Mr Jenrick as the party's pick to become Chancellor if it wins power at the next general election. Businessman Zia Youssef, who isn't an MP, takes the Home Affairs role, focusing heavily on immigration, and Suella Braverman will lead on education, skills and equality. In other news, burning a religious text is in itself disorderly and should have led to a man's conviction being upheld after he set a Quran alight, the High Court has today heard. Hamid Koskan was convicted last June of a religiously aggravated public order offence after he held a flaming copy of the Islamic text aloft outside the Turkish embassy on the 13th of February last year. The 51-year-old successfully appealed against his conviction and it was overturned by Mr Justice Benethan at Southwark Crown Court in October. The Crown Prosecution Service has now launched an appeal against that decision. And its barristers told a hearing today that the judge was wrong to find that Koskan's behaviour was not disorderly. Finally, tributes are continuing to pour in for the late civil rights leader Jesse Jackson, who's died at the age of 84. Donald Trump has described him as a force of nature and a man with lots of personality, grit and street smarts. Former Vice President Kamala Harris describing Jackson as one of America's greatest patriots. His family says he passed away peacefully this morning, surrounded by loved ones. Jackson was a towering figure in the fight for racial equality, working alongside Martin Luther King Jr. during the civil rights movement of the 1960s. His family says his lifelong commitment to justice helped shape a global movement for freedom and dignity. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in an hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
A very deep injustice was put upon the Chagosian people by the Labour government in the late 1960s. They were stripped from the islands. As the military base of Diego Garcia was built, there was no necessity, as many of them were over 100 miles away. They were dumped in Mauritius, treated absolutely appallingly. Most of them fled to this country, and they've been praying to go back to their homeland. Extraordinarily, yesterday, 4 Chagosians landed back on the atoll of Paros Banos. And we, as an exclusive tonight, are going straight to that atoll right now to be joined by Adam Holloway, former Conservative Member of Parliament and Army veteran, and by Ms Lee Mandarin, who of course has been a regular on this show, who is now the First Minister of Chagos, no longer in exile, but actually there, back, and with his father, who was removed from those islands at the age of 14. I'm going to begin with Adam Holloway, who I'm going to call the expedition leader. Adam, this was a very audacious plan. What is the situation right now?
The situation right now is I came back to the ship and I can't get back to the beach, which is only sort of 200 meters away. The sea is too rough. But the situation here is that we have established in the last 6 hours a permanent settlement. And the plan is for Miss Lee to be joined by other people in the coming weeks. And we're going to make this something that Keir Starmer's government cannot deny. The people of Chagos have come back, and this is going to be something that I hope is a change of fact, something that will mean that the whole geometry, if you like, of this situation changes.
Now, despite the fact, Adam, that these are people with British passports and that it's a British territory, technically, have you broken the law by landing and aiming to set up a permanent settlement?
I mean, how on earth is one breaking the law when we have people here who 60 years ago suffered a crime against humanity, effectively, where they were forcibly removed, a group of people forcibly removed and exiled. They were sent to Mauritius, some of them in chains. People died on the boats. Their pets were gassed before leaving. They lived in tin shacks. They were told they weren't worth educating. And then belatedly, the British government gives them passports to come and live in Crawley, near Heathrow Airport. That was convenient, in council houses. And now again, a second time, we're doing the same thing to them by effectively handing their homeland back to the people that they see as their kind of colonial aggressor, the oppressor, the Mauritians. So I don't feel anything at all untoward by what Miss Lee is doing and what we've been supporting him in doing. This is a huge injustice that needs to be righted. And it's also obviously in the context of the big strategic question, which is the future of the strategic base at Diego Garcia. What's illegal? What's wrong about this?
OK. And Adam, as a former army officer, let's talk logistics for a moment before I move over to Ms Lee. What is the situation? How are you managing for water? And what on earth are they eating?
So, we've just done a sort of pretty unprecedented infiltration in the sense we've moved from Asia via Sri Lanka with a very long crossing right across the Indian Ocean to get here, basically because I wanted to make sure that we did it in the most covert way we possibly can, and that plan has obviously succeeded. So now what's going on? So the settlement team, Miss Lee, Antoine, Michelle and Pascal, they are there. You'll see the pictures in a moment. We've got, this has been 4 months in the preparation, so the settlement is well supplied in every respect: power, food, water, and medicines. Actually, water not so much. So one of our big tasks for tomorrow, there are 6 wells on this island. We've only found 1. We need to find the other ones, because obviously life cannot be sustained here unless we sort the wells. But basically, we are in good shape. We've kind of done our bit. Our bit is about changing the facts on the ground, the reality on the ground, having people here. What people like you have to do and the lawyers have to do is we've got to change that change in fact, change in ground reality into changes in terms of parliamentary stuff and at the UN. So it's a big challenge, but we've at least achieved this first bit of it.
It's an extraordinary story. And Ms Lee, Ms Lee, as I can now call you the First Minister of Chagos and friend of this programme and regular in this studio, I must, before we go on, ask you, your father is with you. He's in his 70s. He was 14 years old when he was forcibly removed from what I know many of that generation believed to be quite a paradise. How on earth was it emotionally for him stepping back on that beach?
So thank you for having me, Nigel, and your GBNews viewer. It's always a pleasure. And your help and GBNews being fundamental help to show our struggle. My father, he just said to me, he felt liberated after half a century. He was crying and he said he can see something he's been doing wrong in the past is doing right now by stepping back on the island and stay on the island, not visiting a permanent settlement. So my dad is very, very emotional right now, but he said to me he felt liberated.
Amazing. And Ms Lee, I know it's been your dream, and you've talked about it before on this show and on this channel, but you've got there. And Adam's clearly done a phenomenal job logistically in getting all this sorted out. But goodness me, you've got a place that's not been inhabited for over half a century. As Adam said, you can't even find all the wells because the vegetation has grown so much. I mean, what you have taken on here is a very, very difficult task. Are you ready for the months of hard work that are going to come to make this genuinely habitable?
Nigel, I'm more than ready for this because my family, for generations, they live on those islands. Now, we got the chance with 21st technology. We got internet, we got electricity, we got satellite. The world know what we're doing. Anything you want, just go on YouTube, you can find it. Like Adam said, our priority is finding water tomorrow. And we know we got 6 wells there where we're going to find it. But we are determined to stay. We're not going anywhere.
Ms Lee, Adam, huge thanks. And please keep us updated over the course of the rest of the week. We'll come back to you tomorrow to find out how you've got on with finding fresh water. Thank you very much to both of you. Now, we do actually have a clip we can show you of the landing when it happened earlier on today.
This is our homeland. More to come in a few weeks. We are not visitors. We are belongers, and we be here to stay forever. God save the King. God save the United States of America.
It's difficult not to be quite moved, I think, by all of that. It is quite remarkable. And the more we learn about the appalling way in which they were treated, the more I feel in my heart, good luck to them. They're posing no threat to anybody. If they can make those islands properly habitable and livable, all I can do is wish them all the luck in the world. What was very noticeable is we saw the British Indian Overseas Territory flag. There was a Union Jack at the back, and there was an American flag being held very proudly too. I'm joined in the studio by Niall Gardner, director of the Margaret Thatcher Centre for Freedom at the very powerful Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C. David Lammy said a year ago that if the Americans vetoed this, it would end. We saw Trump saying it's absolutely stupid, unnecessary. Then he sort of rode back a little bit, not too much, the other way. I wonder, in America, whether this story of an indigenous people reclaiming their homeland might have some impact.
I think it will, Nigel, and it's great to see you. And what a glorious moment that we just witnessed, actually. A tremendous moment, I think, in British history. And I think this will move the heart of many Americans on this issue. We saw the American flag there being planted also on the Chagos Islands, and a tremendous, glorious moment. In my view, we can still see a last-minute US intervention against the Chagos surrender deal This is the worst deal, I think, in modern British history. It's a betrayal of the British people, but also a knife in the back for the United States as well.
Yes, because it leaves them in a very awkward position. But what's also interesting is the Chagosians were never, ever asked about this.
Exactly.
Betrayed for a second time by a Labour government, effectively.
Yeah, they've been thrown under the bus by Keir Starmer and this awful Labour government, frankly, which cares nothing about their future at all. And I do believe that the United States, at the end of the day, will do the right thing and sink this deal and send it to the bottom of the Indian Ocean where it belongs. I do believe that.
I mean, Jonathan Powell, you know, big man in Blair's government, big man now in Starmer's government. I mean, he literally went round America telling all the senior officials, we have no option. Under international law, we have to give away the islands. This lease back is the least bad option.
Yes.
It just wasn't true, was it?
Yeah, full of lies, actually. And the whole Chagos surrender deal campaign by the Keir Starmer government has been a massive deception, actually. And they have told lie after lie to the Trump administration, previously, of course, also to the Biden administration as well. Yeah. And I do think, having spoken to several key US officials in the last few days, this is very much a live issue in Washington. And there is growing unease over this deal. I think that ultimately President Trump will intervene again on this issue and decisively act against the deal because it is fundamentally dangerous for US national security. It threatens the long-term future, of course.
Well, and China, of course, very well embedded in Mauritius. Huawei do the telecommunications system. There's a smart city. Well, Niall, I hope they do. And thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
In a moment, we debate all of this with my regular panel, Joe Phillips and Ranald Jarwarden. And you know, the thing, just think about this. Even if technically they shouldn't have landed on that atoll. Think about this. They're British citizens with British passports on British territory. In a moment we debate, dare Keir Starmer send the Royal Marines to remove them?
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Who do we support?
Tottenham.
Tottenham Hotspur.
So you got a new manager today.
I had a very bad day and I thought to myself, if I can't make this possible, which is going to take a lot to do so, I would just love to make his dream come true. And I put a post out on X. His favourite player, James Maddison, he messaged me and arranged that, and we met him 2 days ago.
I mean, isn't that wonderful?
He is.
And you must see the best side of people, whatever. And we haven't really touched upon how bad it is, but basically, without this American operation, life wouldn't be much to look forward to, would it?
No, so without the operation, he's going to get worse than what he is now. You know, he's going to lose a lot of functions. He's going to have a feeding tube. He won't be able to eat anymore, and he really loves his cake, like he loves pudding.
Like your swing, Harley.
And
nice.
He'll probably have to have a tracheostomy. He won't be able to speak anymore.
So it's bad.
It is bad, and I, you know, we don't say a lot of things to him, certain things.
Yeah.
But he knows, you know.
Look, he can really move there, can't he?
He can't dance anymore, though. People keep saying, let's get Harley dancing again. I'd love to see that again, him with his little brother. He's already lost so much, and I don't want him to lose any more. But without this surgery, he's going to lose so much more, and then at the end of it, his life in total will be gone.
£2.5 million. How much have you got?
I think we was at about 170k yesterday. We're so far off, and we've been given the timeline of late spring. Like, we haven't been given long at all to raise these funds.
The People's Channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Well, that was truly extraordinary footage that we saw in the first segment of this show tonight. I mean, modern communication, the fact that we had both Adam Holloway and Misley Mandarin with no line interruptions, that was the first world-exclusive interview they've done since the landing, since the press responses went out earlier. But it leaves an awful lot to debate. Niall Gardner has stayed with me. I'm joined by Joe Phillips and Ranul Jayawardena. Start with you, Ranul. Technically, they shouldn't be landing and settling on these islands. There is a full-time detachment of about 20 Royal Marines on the Diego Garcia base, obviously thousands of Americans. Do you sort of foresee the Prime Minister evicting these people?
No. I mean, you're absolutely right. Under the British Indian Ocean Territory Orders of 2004, it is illegal to actually, for anyone, British citizen or not, to enter that territory. But the idea that Keir Starmer is going to order Marines to evict Chagosans from their own lands is for the birds. And frankly, actually, I think as Adam Holloway, a brilliant man, said...
A former colleague of yours,
indeed,
for
the
many
best whip
years.
I ever had. As he said, the injustices that have been done to these people means that the idea that this government would now do that is just beyond any...
And does it make it harder to pass the legislation that would then change the sovereignty of the islands to Mauritius?
Well, on that, I'm a little bit more nuanced. I actually think it absolutely requires the Americans to be clear.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't think it changes the facts on that. I think the only body, sadly, that can change this is the office of President of the United States. Yeah. Donald Trump is the only person who can stop this. And it's a great shame that they had to plant an American flag on British territory to try and make sure that that happens, because they should be able to look to the British government to protect their own sovereignty.
Well, what they're clear about, Joe, what they're clear about is they want to stay under the king. They see the Americans as being the best bulwark. There's no debate about Diego Garcia. They understand that's going to stay as a base. And anyway, they're 120 miles away where they've landed. They've even suggested that one of the big islands becomes named Trump Island.
Yes.
So they're doing everything they can to get American support for this. And I don't blame them.
No, absolutely. And, you know, we've spent time with Misley here, you know, over many weeks. And,
he comes with all his supporters who pack out the green room.
And it's lovely. And we've all got Chagos T-shirts as well. And, you know, good luck to them. It's an amazing feat. And Adam looks happier than I've ever seen.
Oh, he was born in the wrong century.
He'll be having them digging wells before breakfast and erecting a church before long. But I would just push back slightly. Because, first of all, it didn't start with this government. It was revisited with this government.
That's a perfectly fair point.
No, but it was canned. So you would accept David Cameron canned it?
David Cameron canned it.
Yes. Why did they even start it?
But then James, because of Theresa May, because she was worried about the UN non-binding advisory. Then James cleverly, when he was Tory Foreign Secretary, revisited it. Now,
and David Cameron canned it?
Yeah.
So Labour didn't have to reopen it?
They didn't have to reopen it, and David Lammy made it very clear when he was Foreign Secretary...
although he argued that the Tories had done 70% of the work in negotiation already.
Yes, well, that was what he said. Now,
I mean, who knows?
You know, who knows? Do we believe that?
You may all have your views on Jonathan Powell, but I would say, as I have said time and time again, the Americans surely have got enough lawyers, enough people to check over something to go, oh, hang on a minute, are we being sold a pup or do we just believe everything this guy says?
Yes, but they've had other priorities.
Well, they might have done, Nigel, but this is important. And first of all, you know, Trump said it was great, then he said it was stupid, then he said it's great. So, you know, he's not exactly consistent, as you very well know.
No,
you can't put all that on this government.
Joe, I spoke to him personally about this, face-to-face, at the beginning of November, and he listened. He was worried about China's influence extending. What was perfectly clear to me was, with the Ukraine war, with the Middle East situation, clearly plans for Venezuela.
Yeah.
This was quite low down his list.
Well, and it has probably been quite low down any government's list, frankly, which, you know, the real question is why did the government bring it up, that it has now become, and when other media outlets pick up on this,
they will.
It will become...
I tell you the odd thing about it, though, is that Keir Starmer visited Mauritius in 2013, even before the ICJ advisory judgment. His mate Philip Sands has been working for the Mauritian government on this deal. His mate Philip Sands went illegally to that very island and planted a foreign flag on British territory. What is the obsession with this?
So that is one of the most curious things of this whole debacle.
Yeah.
You know, that the fact that you've got so many players in the Labour movement, let's call it that, and they're not all MPs, in the Labour movement who've been calling for this for years. It's something to do, I think, with both private interests and, you know, some people being actually paid to do work for the Mauritian government. That's one point. I think the other bit is it's something to do with an anti-Americanism and pro-China policy that some people in the Labour movement...
You really believe this, don't you?
I've said this before.
I know.
I think there is a real sense in the Labour movement that America is bad, China is good.
But this...
And they see China as a partner that they can work with for the long run.
The real thing that, you know, I find astonishing is the way the Chagosian people were treated under Harold Wilson's government in the 1960s. I mean, the animals were gassed in order to try and persuade them that it was unsafe to live there, and then they were taken away, as we heard, and scavenging in bins for food. Well, it's impossible to believe that that happened in our lifetime under the auspices of a British government, aided by America, it has to be said.
And there was another opportunity for Labour to revisit this in 2004, because the reason those orders were brought in was that the 1971 legislation was struck down as not being lawful any longer. So they had the opportunity to revisit it in 2004. And they didn't.
Niall, I'm going to leave it to you to take this argument back to America.
Yes.
Take it back to the powerful Heritage Foundation. There's everything here, isn't there? There is a completely unnecessary bending to an advisory court, which had a Russian judge and a Chinese judge. There is America, who, if they find themselves under Mauritius, will be under a treaty that bans all nuclear weapons of any kind. But there's a human issue here. There's a human issue here. You still think that America will intervene?
I do think that will ultimately be the case. I think we can win this because we are on the side of righteousness, freedom, liberty, self-determination, sovereignty, and also we're fighting as well for the national security of the United States and the United Kingdom. I think we're going to win because we are on the right side of history here.
And some very powerful human stories.
Yes, absolutely.
Final thought. In a minute we will debate the U-turn on cancelled elections, which some claim is the 14th major U-turn. Other claims is the 15th.
I think it's the 15th.
Maybe I got it wrong yesterday. I mean,
there might have been another one since we've been on air now.
But do you know what's so extraordinary? Nearly all of these rows, whether it's over winter fuel or whatever, or even this, none of it was in the Labour manifesto. Isn't that the extraordinary thing?
Yes, but not even was it not in the manifesto. It wasn't even in anybody's sort of radar of political antennae to think, I wonder what would happen if this would... No, that's a really silly idea. I'll keep it to myself. I mean, that's what I find so extraordinary, the lack of political nous.
Government in collapse.
Again, it's been a government in office and not in power for quite some time. And a U-turn on this, I really hope it's true, but I do think it is possible now if the Americans do intervene. But again, this comes back to the people he's had in Downing Street, people like Jonathan Powell, who've worked with the Chinese, who've got big interests in China. It's really interesting.
I think we'll leave it at big interest in China, otherwise we'll have lawyers all over us at any moment now. Thank you. No, thank you for coming and joining us. Well, an extraordinary story. But equally extraordinary yesterday was the U-turn. 4.6 million people who were going to be denied the vote on May the 7th now have it. Well, you know what they say, or the Americans would say, no taxation without representation.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast. Hello. If you're heading away for half term, it's a little bit drier across the Mediterranean than it has been lately. Further wet weather, though, affecting more northwestern areas of Europe. The Canary Islands seeing the best, the warmest and the driest weather across Europe. Some wet weather pushing into France and Spain. Drier than it has been across parts of Italy and Greece. And that theme does continue in towards the end of the week and into the weekend as well. But once again, Tenerife seeing highs of 24 degrees.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A mixed 24 hours ahead, cold and dry for many of us at first, but then an area of rain moves in, and as it bumps into the cold air, there will be snow for some, but it's going to be a messy mixture of rain, sleet and patchy snow for many parts of southern and central UK. Here's the front moving in, bumping into the cold air. It stays dry for Scotland, for many central and eastern parts of England overnight. Increasing cloud, but a frost in places nevertheless. So a chilly start to the day on Wednesday with temperatures below freezing in places. Meanwhile, we've got milder air returning to the west and southwest and these outbreaks of rain. A few flakes of snow over Dartmoor and Exmoor, but mostly this is rain affecting parts of Northern Ireland into the west and south of Wales, southwest England. Now, the rain eases off through the morning, so actually it turns drier for a time. A brisk southeasterly wind will make it feel cold, and we've got some snow falling over the higher parts of Northern Ireland, but rain at lower levels. Now for Scotland, plenty of breaks in the cloud, particularly towards the north, although some showers will affect parts of Shetland. And it's hazy sunshine, I think, for many parts of central and eastern England. Some cloud breaks coming along, a few glimmers of sunshine. The front in the south and west, though, is slow moving, so damp day to come for Northern Ireland, for much of Wales, the south and southwest. And then later in the day, the rain turns heavy across southern counties with the risk of localised flooding and issues on the roads. But we're beginning at this stage to see some snow over higher parts of Wales, and overnight into the start of Thursday could be some disruption due to snow across parts of Wales and the Midlands, mostly over hills, but some patchy snow at lower levels. However, on Thursday, all of that clears through. A brighter day follows eventually before more rain spills in from the northwest later. Then it turns much milder heading into the weekend, highs of 14 Celsius.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What we're going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Last year, a number of elections, county council elections, were cancelled on the pretext that as local government reorganisation was hoving into view, that it would be unnecessary to have the elections. Well, OK, that passed. This year, it happened in a much, much bigger way. Community Secretary Steve Reid said this in Parliament on January the 22nd this year.
I have decided to bring forward legislation to postpone 29 elections. This means of the 136 local elections across England that were scheduled for May, the vast majority will go ahead as planned. In areas where elections are postponed, existing councillors will have their terms extended for a short period.
Well, that was that. And he was really, questioned very heavily by Christopher Hope of this manner on whether he was denying democracy.
And it's not denying democracy. You know, I believe strongly.
That's what critics say, though. They say it is.
Of course they do, but they're wrong. They're wrong. It's speeding up elections to the new councils that will replace the councils that are being closed down. And I think that is sensible. We're looking at councils that will be there for the long term.
Well, let's not just blame the Labour Party, because in Norfolk, Suffolk, East Sussex and West Sussex, the Conservative Party wanted delays for a second year in a row. They even tried it on in Essex as well. The Liberal Democrats, they got it on the act. They wanted elections in Cheltenham to be delayed. The whole political class didn't want this to happen. And that was why my judicial review, and being backed up strongly by the boss of the Electoral Commission, has led to the government dropping all of this, and those elections will go ahead. I'm joined by Sebastian Salek, Labour councillor, Waltham Forest, regular on this show. This is a very humiliating U-turn.
It's unfortunate after Starmer said no more U-turns.
Whose side are you on?
Well, in the circumstances, it was the right decision to take because, look, I say this as someone who works in local government. At this point, with May just around the corner, you want certainty. You don't want to be dragging this through the courts. You want to be telling councils, this is what you've got to do, go ahead and do it. Now, that's going to be hard for them. To turn around an election in a few months is a tall order.
Returning officers have to be ready if an MP dies, you know, they have to be ready to hold elections. Surely that's their job.
One by-election, but a whole council election is a much bigger thing, and there's a cost involved, and you've got to find candidates as well and vet them, most importantly, and I think that is going to be an underlying risk.
That's not the council's responsibility, that's the party's responsibility.
Sure, but all of this is to say that there is a lot of extra work that now needs to be done between now and May.
Now, what I found really interesting this afternoon was the leader of Norfolk, and they say, we're now going to go ahead. She's now saying, maybe we just object to the whole local government reorganisation. Maybe we just drop the whole idea of getting rid of district councils and county councils and dividing councils up into unitaries. I wonder whether the whole idea of replacing the current structure in English counties is now up for debate.
Well, let's see what happens. That's one person coming out. But certainly I would challenge most people to know who empties their bins. Is it your district council? Is it your borough council? Who is it?
There is confusion.
There's a lot of confusion. And there's a lot of reason to do this, to roll out more metro mayors as well, which by all measures have been very successful. They are, by some polling, the most known politician to many, many people, more so than their MP, which really surprised me. So there's a lot of good to be done here. And it points to a wider issue here, which is in politics, very rarely do you see the big steps taken. Look at HS2 and how long it's been in the pipeline for. I know.
Ruin our evening.
And this is another one of those things, and you have to be bold, and sometimes that means doing unfortunate things like delaying elections. So it's a small part of a wider thing which is worth doing.
Another humiliation, Joe, for the government?
Well, it was a silly idea because it is I like Steve Reid. I think he's been a very good minister in many other ways.
Well, not on this he hasn't.
But on this, it's ridiculous.
He's broken the law.
And people are having to defend, like Sebastian and Stephen Kim.
So should he go, in your view?
No, I don't think it's a resigning issue. I think it just...
Denying democracy to 4.6 million people?
I just think it was a ridiculous idea to even give people the opportunity to say, and it wasn't, as you say, just Labour council. I mean, you know, I am passionate about people voting, and I would love to think that every single person who's been excised about this actually has got their name on the electoral register and is going to vote, because you don't have to go down and do it. You can do it by post, you can do it by proxy. But if we don't vote, and then, you know, they say, oh, well, only 30% turnout, we have ourselves to blame, and I do think people need to be out there.
Well, yeah, but in a free country, we can choose to vote or not to vote.
Yes, we can. But, you know, I bet there are an awful lot of people who have been engaged in this debate who are going, it's an absolute outrage. And then you say to them...
Well, you may be right.
Well, I know I'm right. You may be right. I've knocked on many doors in my time.
And Ranald, you're not just as bad.
Well, you've named some councils that did ask for it.
Second year in a row.
But Hampshire, my own council, they were very happy with elections, and we've been planning for elections. So, and Kemi Badenoch also agreed with those saying that there should be elections.
Hang on,
so,
Kemi Badenoch
hang on, you wanted
hasn't got a leg to stand on.
Hang on, you wanted me to answer, so I'll answer now.
OK, defend Sussex, East and West.
I'm not going to defend them.
Defend Norfolk.
I'm going to talk about Hampshire and other councils where they said that they would have an election because it was the right thing to do. And these plans that Steve Reid inherited from Angela no-brainer. I do think there's a lot of thought now that needs to be taking place in government. If the logic was that it was all too difficult to do reorganisation whilst there were elections taking place, then maybe the leader of Norfolk, on the case of should reorganisation take place at all, maybe there is some argument behind that.
Bob Russell, who was a Liberal Democrat, member of Parliament Colchester, has been in touch with me about this. He says 50 years ago, the last big local government reorganisation, it didn't stop elections happening, it was part of the debate.
No, exactly.
Do you think, Reynolds, you were an MP for many, many years, in a county that's got big cities, but also vast rural areas. My worry on all of this is you get rid of rural district councils, you put them into bigger unitaries, and the city dominates everything.
I think there's a real risk of that. I think it's important there is some local accountability, particularly on things like planning policy, licensing of pubs and so on. You want to make sure there's some accountability for the decisions that affect
Although, as Sebastian quite rightly pointed out, who does the running? I get that.
Somebody empties the bins, but somebody else is actually, disposing of the waste. And I think there's a huge issue of cost. The doubling up of chief executives, backroom staff, and the crossover. And we know that all councils of every political persuasion are absolutely strapped for cash.
But we know they are. Although Cornwall went wholly unitary, and their debt's even bigger. So
and I think there are issues. People do need that local accountability, and district councils are good, but it's utterly ridiculous to have county councils. Then other councils.
Well, I don't agree. But that's the debate that we have.
We overcomplicate things, Joe, in this country. I think
we do, absolutely.
And also in terms of the reorganisation in the 1970s, I think Michael Heseltine was the minister, and he literally flew over the country, said this is where the boundaries are done, and we've overcomplicated.
And many of those Heseltine changes have been reversed as the years have gone.
And you know what he used to write on every memo and report he had? I'm not going to say it. It was JFDI, which was just.
Yes, OK, very good. Sebastian, final thought with you. I've had a go at the Conservatives for a second year in a row. Most of these councils are in the northwest of England, they're in the Midlands, they were Labour-controlled. Could this court judgment signal, post the 7th of May, the end of Keir Starmer as an electoral millstone for the Labour Party?
I don't think it will move the needle. Look, Labour could...
Really?
Well, Labour could get hammered in the local elections and Keir Starmer could resign. That's all theoretically possible. But this small clutch of councils, is it going to make a difference? I don't think so.
Yeah, we've got Wales and Scotland. You've got Wales and Scotland and all 32 London boroughs on the same day. It's a big moment.
But isn't that baked in anyway? That, Labour knows it's the government, it's very unpopular. They bake that in.
Yes, but it depends how bad.
And they were trying to avoid a lot of defeats, weren't they?
And I think adding a few more councils in isn't going to make a difference. If it's a wipeout, it's a wipeout either way. It's a try.
Does he have your support?
He does have my support.
There we go. There we go. Arm twisted firmly behind his back. No, not at all. Thank you for joining us. In a moment, are diesel cars about to make a dramatic comeback as EVs are not selling in the numbers that everybody thought?
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Car giants, Stellantis, they own Vauxhall, they own Fiat, they own Jeep, they manufacture in this country. And what they're saying today is there is going to be a big pushback to start making more of their models in diesel. Why? Because EVs simply are not selling. Consumers don't want them. But I wonder whether the sting in the tail is the legislation that still exists, whereby if manufacturers don't meet a quota for the number of EVs sold, they get fined per car. Quite how they get around that, I don't know. But on the big picture, Ranel, of course, who doesn't care about the environment at all, still drives a diesel. Ranel, I mean, customers just don't trust EV. Depends where you live, doesn't it? If you live in central London, I kind of get it.
Yeah.
I kind of get it. You're doing an 8-mile journey, a 10-mile journey. If you live out in the country, you've got long journeys, you've got to stop at a service station. It's now more expensive to charge at a motorway service with electricity than it is to put unleaded in the car. Customers just don't want them, do they?
So, as you say, it's about a mixed economy, and I should say I was an environmentalist in many ways before anyone was.
I've teased you both ways now on this.
Indeed you have. And I do have an EV, exactly as you say, for that city driving, for short journeys. But actually for long journeys, if I want to go from Hampshire to Scotland or whatever, it's only possible in an internal combustion engine of some sort because of the distances involved, the time required charging and so on. And people often fear that the chargers that are supposed to be on the route won't even work when they get there.
This is range anxiety.
Absolutely.
Now, we've all had it with our gauge going down, but range anxiety with EVs is very real.
It's a huge problem because there is literally no alternative. You can't go down the road with a petrol can to fix a problem if you run out. So most short journeys, most journeys full stop, can be done on an EV, no problem. So, the industry as a whole will want to, I'm sure, continue producing EVs, but it's about a mixed economy and allowing people to make the choices that are right for them.
And Joe, this was Boris Johnson. After 2030, no more new sales of diesel or petrol cars. Is what we're seeing now across the board with net zero and greenery, common sense now asserting itself?
I think it is in some cases. I mean, I don't have this antipathy that you do to wind farms.
Hideous.
I think they're great. I think they're absolutely beautiful.
Oh,
I think
ridiculous.
They look wonderful
You
off
don't,
the
you
coast.
do not mean that.
I do.
You don't.
You
don't.
I do. I will take you sailing round them one day. They are absolutely delightful. And I think that's good. I think solar power is good.
Do you?
Yes, I do. And I think every
Not much COP this year so far, is it really?
But, apparently there hasn't been in the Chagos Islands as well.
Not today, sadly.
But, I think every new build estate should have solar, and I think we should be much more sensible about water supply.
I think for
and
domestic,
all of those things.
For domestic, it's fine if you can afford it.
Yes, but I also think that, saying we're not going to do this, which is a typical sort of Boris Johnson nonsense without stopping to think about it, it is, as you say, I wouldn't have an electric car because of charging. and having to drive around country lanes and things. You know, and that whole thing about rage anxiety is a real issue. I mean, a friend of mine had it, and she had to get her husband to drive her in their old diesel car up to, you know, to follow her up to the charging station because she didn't think she could get there.
Now, I'm going to bring Jacob Rees-Mogg in here because he's been on this subject very, very heavily. As it stands right now, if manufacturers don't meet quotas, targets, 22% electric, going up to 35% electric, they get fined per car. So how does Stellantis get around this problem?
I think policy will change. You've already seen it changing in the EU, where the car lobby is really quite powerful. Jobs depend on this. We have bad unemployment figures today. Just think, if you are the Prime Minister, you may be in due course, and somebody comes to you and says, look, we're going to get rid of thousands more jobs in the car industry because we're fining them for selling cars people want, you say, Mr Miliband, I don't think we're going to do that anymore.
So Stellantis are taking a view.
They're taking a view. They must be taking a political gamble because there's no legal mechanism of getting around it. It requires political change. But all these things have been done by statutory instrument. They're pinned onto primary legislation, but they're therefore very easy to change. They just need short debates in the House of Commons, 45-minute debates, or an hour-and-a-half debates, and then they're changed. So it's quite easy to reverse all of this, and I think the political pressure is going to become overwhelming, and ultimately politicians have to respond to what voters want, and voters don't want to buy electric cars. All the purchase of them is being done by fleets, not by individuals.
Well, and that's the point, isn't it? It's the sales tell the story. What's the point?
Yeah. Joe, there are something like 37 million people in this country that drive. Some drive very occasionally, some drive a huge amount. My contention is that the aggravation of driving is worse now than it was 5 years ago.
It's awful.
Infinitely worse than it was 20 years ago. What do we do?
Well, I don't know. There are too many cars on the road, too many big cars on the road, and too many people who drive very selfishly. Yes. No. Yes, absolutely.
But isn't it funny? When you go to new builds...
I mean, I used to love driving, and I really try and avoid it now.
If you visit new builds... which we've, of course, got a huge number of. What is remarkable is modern-day houses are built as if every family has one car. Most have two or perhaps three. And every new build estate, it's very difficult to drive through. It's almost as if we're trying to phase out... Government wants to phase out cars, but people don't. Randall, what do you make of that?
It's exactly this. So planners, both in the government departments and in local authorities, basically want to kill off the car. They've wanted to do that for 20-plus years. They want everyone to use government-controlled transport, one means or another, and that's why Prescott removed the parking spaces on new builds from that time onwards. It was relaxed under Eric Pickles, and the Conservatives have been brought back in.
But that only works if you stop having planning in places where there's no public transport.
No, it's not even then the right thing to do, because people should be able to choose how they travel. And on the point about cars and what do we do to fix it, scrap these 20-mile-per-hour speed limit zones that are still in London and in other places around the country. Build more motorways. There was great plans to build motorways in the 1960s that never happened because of the fuel crisis and so on. So build more motorways. Redual a lot of the A roads that have been reduced down to single carriageways because county councils decide, it's cheaper this way because we don't have to maintain 2 lanes. Do these things that create more capacity. Everyone will have a better time. I agree entirely.
Final word, Joe.
Stop allowing building of places where there is no transport that means people are car dependent. Start revitalising town centres.
Well, to do that, we need to build more train lines and do all sorts, which may well be right.
Absolutely.
But the trouble is, it won't solve the short term. Thank you. Jacob has already intervened helpfully in the show.
Yes.
What have you got coming up?
Well, I'm going to be talking about the terrible unemployment figures and this government's economic failure. That these unemployment figures aren't happening by accident. They're happening because of deliberate government policies that are making it less attractive to take people on. And that's really important. And youth unemployment is particularly bad. And what we need to do is look at the welfare system because it's paying people not to work.
I know.
But I'm then also going to be talking about you, which my viewers always like.
You want to get out more, honestly.
See whether or not you've had your Sheffield moment. Are you the Neil Kinnock, 1992, brought back to life? Remember Sheffield, where he had this great unveil of all his cabinet to be?
The trouble with
we were just waiting for you to say it's all right.
The trouble with Olditarians is they're just too stuffy. Anyway, in a moment, let's have a look at the weather. It's going to rain, I promise.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A mixed 24 hours ahead, cold and dry for many of us at first, but then an area of rain moves in, and as it bumps into the cold air, there will be snow for some, but it's going to be a messy mixture of rain, sleet and patchy snow for many parts of southern and central UK. Here's the front moving in, bumping into the cold air. It stays dry for Scotland, for many central and eastern parts of England overnight. Increasing cloud, but a frost in places nevertheless. So a chilly start to the day on Wednesday with temperatures below freezing in places. Meanwhile, we've got milder air returning to the west and southwest and these outbreaks of rain. A few flakes of snow over Dartmoor and Exmoor, but mostly this is rain affecting parts of Northern Ireland into the west and south of Wales, southwest England. Now, the rain eases off through the morning, so actually it turns drier for a time. A brisk southeasterly wind will make it feel cold, and we've got some snow falling over the higher parts of Northern Ireland, but rain at lower levels. Now for Scotland, plenty of breaks in the cloud, particularly towards the north, although some showers will affect parts of Shetland. And it's hazy sunshine, I think, for many parts of central and eastern England. Some cloud breaks coming along, a few glimmers of sunshine. The front in the south and west, though, is slow moving, so damp day to come for Northern Ireland, for much of Wales, the south and southwest. And then later in the day, the rain turns heavy across southern counties with the risk of localised flooding and issues on the roads. But we're beginning at this stage to see some snow over higher parts of Wales, and overnight into the start of Thursday could be some disruption due to snow across parts of Wales and the Midlands, mostly over hills, but some patchy snow at lower levels. However, on Thursday, all of that clears through. A brighter day follows eventually before more rain spills in from the northwest later. Then it turns much milder heading into the weekend, highs of 14 Celsius.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's only 2 weeks remaining to see how you could win a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash. Plus, we could be sorting out your summer with an incredible holiday for two worth £10,000, courtesy of Riviera Travel. You'll get to choose from 47 tours in over 30 worldwide destinations. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hello, good evening. It's me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, on State of the Nation. Tonight.
We've been in government, we've created 380,000 jobs, the employment rate is up and inactivity is down, the complete opposite of what we inherited.
Britain's unemployment rate has climbed to a post-pandemic high of 5.2%, with youth unemployment rising and wage growth stagnating. Youth unemployment